Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, leaving behind a legacy of nonviolence, peaceful protests, and demonstrations for equality. His example stands strong over 50 years later. They say that behind every great man is a powerful woman. This was also true for Dr. King, yet not behind him, but by his side stood Queen King, Coretta Scott King. In the months following Dr. King's death, Queen King stepped in and delivered speeches on 3 occasions that were scheduled for her husband to speak. Journey with me now for just a moment back in time to those days when, in her grief, Coretta Scott King stepped up and took the mic. April 27, 1968, Until the Last Gun is Silent speech. Location, Central Park, New York City, New York. Coretta Scott King could have simply shown up to the Central Park Peace Rally, said nothing, and still inspired the crowd with her presence alone. Instead, Queen King took her husband's place and delivered the speech from notes which were found on scraps of paper in his coat pocket. Coretta Scott King personally addressed the crowd and said, "I come to you in my grief only because you keep alive the work and dreams for which my husband gave his life. My husband derives so much of his strength and inspiration from the love of people who shared his dream that I too come hoping you might strengthen me for the lonely road ahead," end quote. June 19, 1968, Juneteenth, Solidarity Address at the Poor People's March, location, Washington Mall, Washington, D.C. Reverend Martin Luther King organized the Poor People's Campaign, a movement against poverty, before his death. During this address, just days after Senator Kennedy's assassination, Coretta Scott King made it clear that racism, poverty, and war were the epitome of violence. Queen King stated, "In this society, violence against poor people and minority groups is routine. I remind you that starving a child is violence. Suppressing a culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Punishing a mother and her child is violence. Discrimination against a working man is violence. Ghetto housing is violence. Ignoring medical needs is violence. Contempt of poverty is violence. Even the lack of willpower to help humanity is a sick and sinister form of violence," end quote. July 1st, 1968. We may yet not only survive, we may triumph speech. Location, Class Day, Saunders Theater, Harvard University. This speech was among her most popular when Coretta Scott King addressed Harvard University's 1968 graduating class. Though Dr. King was originally scheduled to speak, the students extended the invitation to Coretta Scott King. This made her the first woman to deliver Harvard's Class Day speech. She encouraged the students to use their individuality and personal creativity for the common good. I quote, "In a power-drunk world where means begot ends and violence becomes a favorite pastime. We are swiftly moving towards self-annihilation. Your generation must speak out with righteous indignation against the forces which are seeking to destroy us. End quote. Coretta Scott King concluded each of the 3 speeches as she would often do, directing her attention to women leadership, and presented women as the best and last hope for a world of peace and brotherhood. A pioneer of activism and matriarch of the civil rights movement, Coretta Scott King withstood hardships so that the shared legacy of Reverend Dr. and Queen King blazed a permanent mark on American and world history and securely established the non-violent message of freedom and equality for all people, which still rings on today.